Hello and welcome to today's show. I'm Rod, the Elite Handyman, and today we're going to be installing a sump pump. This particular house has never had a sump pump, but it was roughed in previously. So they have a sump basin in the ground, in the floor, and they already have a discharge pipe going up and out of the house. So it's ready to go for one whenever they needed it. At this house now, they've checked it annually to see the water flow, and they notice now that the sump basin is filling up and would like a sump pump installed. So that's what we're going to do today. Should be a simple process since it's already been roughed in. So why don't I show you what we're going to use today, and we'll get started. Okay, here's everything that we need for the installation. The sump pump we bought is a nice cast iron heavy duty one. This has a lifetime warranty. They don't have a lot of water here and it won't be working too hard, so we just got a 1/3 horse. This is a good quality one though. It has a vertical float switch on it. These are really the better kind if you're going to buy a sump pump. You'll notice when you're looking at sump pumps they have 2 cords on them. The reason is you have one cord going to your float switch and one for the pump itself. They have a piggyback plug so that the pump is plugged in through the switch, and that way when the float goes down, it'll shut off the pump. If you just plug the pump in by itself, it'll run constantly. So that's what you see there. It's called a piggyback plug-in. Okay, they have the outlet on them is all threaded, in this case for a 1/2 inch pipe. So I've already screwed in the adapter for it. And the other things we have are a check valve, which is very important. This will allow water to flow up but not come back down. You want these installed as close to the pump as possible so that not so much water goes back in it. If you have them installed too high, a lot of water that's being pumped up, when the switch releases, all that water will flow back down. So you want these as close to your pump as possible. This particular one is using the black ABS pipe, is what's already installed in the house. Sometimes you might have the white PVC, so we've got the black pipe to match. We've got some elbows that we're going to use. We've got ABS cement for gluing these things up. We have, of course, our hacksaw for cutting these, and a marker to mark them to length, and so on. So let's get started. I've already marked one of the pipes to length, the length that I need. That will go from my adapter up to my check valve. So I'm going to cut that first and get this started. Okay, this is my piece of pipe that's going to go from the sump pump up to my check valve. And then I'll have another piece of pipe that will come up out of that, and then it'll go up. I'll install my elbows and pieces to go out of the house. So the first thing I'm going to do is take and cement this one in place. ABS cement, all these different kinds of cements, they come with a wand that has a cotton pad on it, and you simply put some around inside. You'll put some on your pipe, and then you push it down in there, giving it about a 1/4 turn and then holding it in place. It does dry up pretty quick, so you don't need to hold it more than about 15 seconds or so, and then you're good and in place. Our next step in this case is going to be to put on our check valve. Check valves, you always want to make sure you look for an arrow on there that tells you the direction of flow, so that you know that your water is going to go up but can't come back down. Obviously you need to make sure you have that installed correctly so that the pump can operate. We're going to push this down on as far as we can, and we're going to tighten down the clamp with our screwdriver as tight as we can get it by hand. There we go. So now we're ready to set this down into the basin. One thing that I can add is you need to make sure you have it on a solid surface. If you set this pump right down in the bottom of the basin, silt and sand and things that get into the bottom of the basin can clog the pump. So you always need to have it sitting up on something so that you have when any sediment is down in the bottom of the basin, it's not going to get on up into your pump. And of course, some maintenance is required on these. You should always check them periodically, every few months or so, 6 months maybe, to make sure that sediment isn't building up too much and get them cleaned out. Get the sediment cleaned out to keep your pump in good working condition. I've replaced a number of these that are simply because they've been clogged up and it burned out the pump. So you have to make sure you do good maintenance on them to keep them going. All right, I'm going to go over and remove the sump lid and get this set down in the basin and start measuring up our other pieces. All right, we're at the sump basin, and there is a lot of sediment down in the bottom that I see. So it's good that we're putting in our nice solid surface. And then we're going to set our sump pump on that and make sure it's sitting good and solid on there. Sometimes it takes a little bit of moving around to make sure you get it good and solid. You want to make sure that your float has free movement and it doesn't rub up against the side or any of your drain pipes, because you want to make sure that it can move freely to do its job. Now what we're going to do is measure for our piping. What I'm going to be doing is, I found the pipe in the wall back here, and so I'll be putting an elbow on that, and then I'll have to come up out of our top, and I'll have an elbow that goes straight over to our pipe. Obviously I have to keep in mind where the holes are on our lid. They give you a couple holes. Some basins where there's a lot of water flow, put 2 pumps in there, one as a backup. And one will set down low and one will set up higher just as a backup. And then this has a hole for our cords to come out and a nice rubber stopper for it. So I want to make sure before I do anything else that I put my lid on temporarily and make sure that I'm going to line up my pipe where I need to, so that when I'm all set, it comes out in the proper place. Now it looks like I'm nice and straight right underneath my hole. So I'm going to go ahead and take my measurements and find out what I'm going to need. First thing I'm going to do is glue on my first elbow so that I make sure I have it at the right height. When I'm putting this on, I want to make sure I'm aimed in the right direction. I'm just using line of sight to line up my pipe with where my pipe is coming up out of the basin, so that they're going to be lined up nicely when I get that going. So now I'm going to set my pipe in here, push it down inside where it's going to be. And then I can take a measurement on the height that I'm going to be across here, and I can basically just use a level or my tape measure and just kind of line up and see about where my height's going to be. And then you can take and set your other elbow up on here and make sure that we're coming up, at about the same height. And then you can use your marker to put a mark on the pipe where you want it to be. Now in this case, of course, I'm going to make sure that that I make my mark on this pipe up here on my elbow to make sure that I have enough pipe to go up inside my elbow. Then what I'm going to do next, when I cut this, I'll put my elbow on here and then measure the size pipe that I need to go across. And then I'm going to dry fit them all and make sure that everything fits before I glue anything together. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, so what I've done, I have my pump down inside the basin. What I did was I had my elbow on here and I just measured, I set a piece in here where it was going to go, measured up my height to cut my vertical piece. Then I put my lid on and I set my piece down in where it's going to, so it sits down inside there at the height it's going to be. And then I was able to set the elbow on it, and then I could take a tape measure and measure my distance, obviously from the back side of my elbow so that the piece goes all the way into it. And then I know my measurement for my horizontal piece. I've got them all cut. I'm going to dry fit them, or I've dry fitted them to make sure that they fit. Now I'm going to put my piece down inside my check valve here, which is a rubber piece. Might help if you get a little bit of water on your pipe to push it in, because that helps it to slip into the rubber a whole lot easier. You still have to kind of work it down in there. It's hard to get down in until you seat it all the way. And then you can tighten down the piece on there, or tighten down the band clamp on here to make sure that you're all sealed up against the water. Trying to do this left-handed is a little difficult, as I'm right-handed. Okay, so we're all set there. Now I'm just going to, before I glue everything up, I'm going to set my lid on and make sure that I'm positioned properly before I glue anything up. I'm a little bit off. Turn it and make sure I'm set. Bit off. Okay, and now I'm just checking, and I look like I'm pretty good shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue everything up. First thing though, once I glue everything up here, we're not going to be able to take this lid all the way off again. We'll be able to lift it somewhat and turn it, for cleaning purposes and that sort of thing. But I want to get my cords running through. This lid is nice because it has a hole specifically for our cords, and a nice little rubber stopper on there to help keep, musty smell and so on from these basins out of your area here. This is in a laundry room, so, we want to keep them, any fumes out of the way so that they don't bother anybody. All right. Let's see here. Okay, I have my correct piece. I'm going to cement it in. Hold it in place. All right, I've glued on our horizontal piece. I'm now going to glue on the elbow. I've got everything set where I want it, so I know I'm in the right location, so I can safely glue everything up. Get the glue on all of my pieces, and then assemble. Everything is on and in, and I'm just going to hold it in place for 10 or 15 seconds. Make sure the glue is set. Okay, and now our piping is all installed. The next thing I want to do is plug it in. As I said, this has a nice rubber stopper with holes and slits in it for my cords. This actually had one hole. I cut another slit and drilled a second hole for the cord, because nowadays you have these double cords, as I mentioned earlier in the video. A little bit tight going in, but it sure works well. There we go. Get my rubber stopper in. And as I said before, we're going to plug in our pump to our piggyback for our switch, and then I'm going to run these up and plug them into the wall. There we go. And the pump turned on right away because our basin was quite full of water. Came on, pumped the water out, and we're all set. So the next thing I'm going to do is tie up these cords and get them neatly out of the way. And then I'll put the sheetrock back on and get it looking nice and neat for our homeowners. And that's going to be it. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll tune in to some more of our videos. I'm Rod, and this is Elite Handyman.